Hello guys, today our group 6 will present about the habitat fragmentation. Okay, this is our group. Okay, what is habitat fragmentation? Habitat fragmentation is defined as the process during which a large expanse of habitat is transformed into a number of smaller patches of smaller total area isolated from each other by a matrix of habitat unlike the original. Okay, do you know what causes the habitat fragmentation? First, natural causes. Evidence of habitat destruction through natural processes such as volcanism, fire and climate change is found in the fossil record. For example, habitat fragmentation of tropical rainforests in Euro-America 300 million years ago led to a great loss of amphibian diversity, but simultaneously the drier climate spurred on the burst of diversity among reptiles. Okay, the second one, habitat fragmentation is caused by the human. Habitat fragmentation is frequently caused by humans when native land are cleared for human activities such as agriculture, rural development, urbanization, and creation of hydroelectric reservoirs. Habitat which were once continuous become divided into separate fragments. Okay, and the last one, habitat fragmentation is caused by the endogenous versus exogenous. Endogenous is defined as a process that develops as a part of species biology. So they typically include change in biology, behavior, and interaction between species. Endogenous traits can result in change of breeding pattern or migration pattern that are often triggered by exogenous process. Meanwhile, exogenous process is a process independent of species biology and can include habitat degradation, habitat subdivision, and habitat isolation. These processes can have a substantial impact on endogenous process by fundamentally altering species behavior. Habitat subdivision or isolation can lead to change in dispersal or movement of species, including change in seasonal migration. Okay, this change can lead to a decrease in a density of species, increased competition, or even increased predation. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Saya akan menerangkan tentang advantages of habitat fragmentation. Okay, advantage yang pertama ialah positive effects of habitat fragmentation. Mana itu kesan positif pemecahan habitat sendiri yang mana menunjukkan bahawa beberapa tambalan kecil habitat dapat dimiliki nilai pemulihan yang lebih tinggi daripada satu tambalan besar dengan ukuran yang sama. Okay, oleh itu, strategi pembahagian tanah boleh memberi kesan positif kepada spesies daripada strategi pembebasan tanah. Okay, advantage yang kedua ialah new placement for human. Itu penempatan yang penempatan yang baru untuk manusia lah. Okay, when the fragmentation occurs, then the territory of and human habitation will be wider and more open because human beings have an ever increasing area of residence life. Lifestyle will also change according to the suitability of the place where they live. For example, newly inhabited areas downstream, they will be more dependent on readily available river resources. Okay, next advantage yang terakhir ialah high job opportunities. This is because peluang pekerjaan yang tinggi ni ini adalah kerana ketika orang sedang mencari kawasan yang baru untuk didiami, banyak orang dan organisasi Malaysia akan berlumba-lumba untuk berpindah dan mencari tempat untuk mendirikan penempatan dengan pelbagai kemudahan. Okay, sebagai contoh, syarikat tertentu akan mencari kawasan untuk membuka cawangan yang baru, untuk memperluaskan lagi perniagaan mereka, di mana akan di situ akan terhasilnya wujudnya peluang pekerjaan yang terbuka luas di kawasan tersebut. Okay, sekian saja.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nurul Zakman Betty Barishin. My meeting number is E2019102344. I want to give explanation about the advantages of habitat fragmentation on the ecosystem diversity. So, firstly, species extinctions worldwide. Extinction occurs when species are diminished because of environmental forces. Next, destruction of habitat, elimination or alteration of the conditions necessary for animals and plants to survive. Then, habitat alterations, which is change in the particular environment or place. Next, we will see that fragmentation of large habitats into smaller patches. Its carrying capacity will be reduced. So next is forest loss continuous in protected areas. That could be when lost for other uses such as agriculture or mining activities. Lastly, about reducing reproductive success genetic exchange. It will happen when there are increased genetic divergence among population due to increased random genetic drive. So that's all about the advantages. Thank
Problems
you.
of habitat fragmentation. The first one is habitat and biodiversity loss. Habitat fragmentation reduces the amount of suitable habitat available for organisms, so that plants and other organisms are affected because they cannot respond quickly to the alter of the habitat. Next is threat to the species. Habitat fragmentation causes of species becoming threatened and endangered. The existence of viable habitat is critical to the survival of any species, and in many cases the fragmentation of any remaining habitat can lead to difficult decisions for conservation biologists. Next, increasing the risk of a variety of genetics. Small populations are at an increased risk of variety of genetic consequences that influence their long-term survival. Fragmentation also brings effect on animal behavior. Fragmentation has also been shown to affect species behavior and culture as well. This is important because social interaction can determine and have an effect on a species' fitness and survival. And the lastly is habitat fragmentation has effect on microorganisms. Increased fragmentation has been linked to reduced population and diversity of fungi responsible for decomposition, as well as the insects they are host to.
Alternative solution for habitat fragmentation. So this is kind of blue journal. Starting off, as construction advances, urban green space may help to reduce habitat fragmentation and preserve some connectivity between patches. So these are the 5 important actions. First, save the high quality biodiversity green space that is still exists. Second, green space that has been degraded should be managed and improved. Third, restore places of historical interest that have been decreased. Fourth, improve land usability between sites. And fifth, new green space development. Next is some diagram that represent fragmentation, avoidance, mitigation, and compensation. So this actually how we counter the threats of habitat fragmentation. Adapting infrastructure alignment to avoid bisecting fragile habitats, lessen road corridor landing, or decrease disruption into neighboring habitats, minimize the effects but does not eliminate the fragmentation. Another solution, more education to the public. This is so they can aware of the effects of destruction of habitats and reconstruction. This is to encourage the restoration and conservation of natural resources by applying regulation that governs practices such as tree burning, river degrading, forest clearance, and last but not least, wetland filling. Next, I will again show you the full pages so that you can read furthermore. And that's all for me. Thank you.